Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last Rise and Grind. I'm 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And we're going to talk about it's the end of the road. That's right. It's my last Rise and Grind. And I do have news that I'm going to be starting my brand new show called My Stoic Circus. It's an upgrade from my Rise and Grind brand. So we're going to get into it in here in just a minute as we get going. All right, everybody. Welcome live on Breakout, the social audio app or social audio, and as well as in YouTube exclusive, my last show as far as Rise and Grind the brand. And why am I doing that? Well, I've been thinking about it, and I've had one previous other show, and it was called Good Vibes with Jason B. When I first got it started out in podcasting, started out on Anchor.fm, which is now podcasting through Spotify. And I just wanted to create a brand new show a couple years ago. And I was like, okay, I need to put more of emphasis on preparing, polish. What's my message? What do I want to talk about? And I just felt Rise and Grind was the right label. And over time, a lot of people have done the same thing. They've used the same show name, and it's been harder for people to find me, find my podcast on Apple, just search me out. So it's been an interesting journey along the way, so to speak. But what is going to take place of Rise and Grind? Well, starting July 1st, my new show called My Stoic Circus. Um, why the name and why the show? Well, I kind of feel like stoicism is like it is like a circus. You've got spectators, you got clowns, you got perils, you got trapeze, or you got things flying over, and I'm the ringleader, and I'm helping not just myself but others through emotional training. That's really what it comes down to. It touches on financial, it touches on our families, it touches on so many things, and it's kind of like a continuation of Rise and Grind, but just without the label. But now I'm going to be using not just readings out of one particular book, my daily stoic, but I'm taking my own interpretations of these ancient wisdoms and just giving that. I mean, I appreciate what Ryan Holiday wrote, but it's time for me to step out of that box and that shroud and going forward. So, and also I just want to say shout out to all my loyal supporters. Thank you, Jenny, for showing up. I made you a co-host today because you and Stephanie and Julie Locum have, and a few others, and Beth have been my most loyal supporters on the Breakout app. So I do definitely appreciate you, and you guys will get exclusive invites. So with that being said, my Stoic Circus will have exclusive content to loyal supporters. So I will have an email thing for you to sign up, a calendar. I will have let's just say a blog, as well as a newsletter and what's to come in my shows going forward. I also am a part of, on Mondays on Breakout and Clubhouse, a show called The Big Idea, held with Julie Loken and Dr. JC Dornack, aka the Dragon. So we'll be doing that Mondays at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, and I believe it's 9 Mountain Central. So make sure that you drop by on Breakout or Clubhouse. We have houses for that. And what is that? It's about professionalism, networking, adding emotional connection with our business, and work-life balance. So I'm kind of staying within the arena that I'm in. And my focus now is upgrading my professionalism in my broadcasting. I was thinking about this last night. Where are our journalists? Where is journalism gone? And I'm thinking, no, that's a connection. I think journalists journalism is a special art in itself. And what I do as a profession is not closely related, but it still involves writing, investigating, looking into issues. And that's all in the compass of what I want to do. And also, it takes supporters. That's right, supporters. So I will create exclusive premium rooms on Breakout that you will have to pay to get into. It's a small price. Or as I'm finishing up my website, you get onto the email list, you get a subscription, you pay. I haven't set the price yet. I'm going to decide on that tonight. It's not going to be big, but monthly subscription, and you will get specific invites to be in those premium rooms. Why am I doing that? I feel if people want to value your information and your contributions, let them pay for it. It's just that simple. We give away so much for free. And why should you have to pay? What makes me so special? Well, I constantly promote a positive message in my shows, no matter what, even if there's obstacles, even if there's haters, whatever, I just keep steady. And out of all the shows that are trying to be promoted out there, there's books, there's programs. I don't have a book written. I'm writing a book right now, but it's going to take me a year to write, and it's going to involve my experience with court battles for custody to going from a minimum wage worker to a professional. It's going to involve how you relate to people beyond your handicaps, and we all have different things. So my book hopefully will be finished next year. I just started writing it. And why? Because I will have lessons, real life lessons, go to like step by step, process of how to approach those certain emotional parts, and that's it. That's just basically it. I didn't want to do it because I write so much and I read so much, but I got some personal challenges from friends, and it's just like, okay, well, what are you all about? You want to take the next level? You've got to write a book. You want to get people need to know. And I'm kind of like, I want to push against that because I feel like if you don't have something good to write in your mind, you're just writing it for the process, then don't do it. I'm a real firm believer. Don't do it. So, with all that being said, I want to take a brief break and open up to a few of my friends. So, good morning, Jenny. Good morning, Beth and Stephanie. Thank you so much for attending. How are you guys doing this morning? If you guys can
I'm
talk.
doing great this morning.
Good, 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 good. And have you guys gotten anything out of my Rise and Grind shows? That's just out of curiosity. Is there anything that you particularly like, or that you like to continue to support? What is it that you like about Rise and Grind that you've heard so far?
I would say your topics and the stuff that you bring to the table.
Mhm.
I mean, great conversation to have and stuff that, things that we really don't think about. You make us think. So that's what I like about it. I just think you should still continue it, whether regardless of the name or not, just still continue doing it.
Oh yeah, it's going to continue. The mindset is going to continue. I need to change it for professional purposes. Changing Rise and Grind out. There is literally 50 Rise and Grind podcasts out there. I found them. And I think there's 10 YouTube stations with Rise and Grind. So to separate myself, I found a domain, My Stoic Circus. I bought the website, I bought the domain name, and it's going to be easier for my guests and for fans and subscribers to follow. It will be that much easier. The keyword search, all that goes into podcasting, so to speak. So it's an interesting journey, to say the least. And the one thing I will add more into in My Stoic Circus is I will add a section for parenting. That's right, parenting. I have a lot of experience, some good, some bad, but I want to open it up to more of us parents, especially because think about it. If we can get ourselves in a better emotional position of how we respond to things, then the world doesn't seem so shitty, because then it really comes down to we are the teachers, we're the mentors, we're the ones that are in control of the cards that are being dealt, not organizations, not companies. So I really want to emphasize on that. And I want to touch on men's issues that relate to women. That's another thing about my Stoic Circus, is that I feel there's plenty of people that talk about relationships and things like that, but when it comes outside of romanticism and it's interpersonal, how we're friends, how we receive people, how we work with each other, how we're curious, how we share information between men and women, you know, and connecting to parents. I think it's a huge opportunity. It's not me now necessarily telling you, giving you relationship advice, but we're looking at how can we better the connection in all these amazing tools social audio has to offer. So I think that's also a very valuable lesson, so to speak. And I think there are a lot of people that talk about it, but to me, they get sidetracked. And then it's like men against women. And I don't want that. I know that's going to happen at some points, but what I want to bring together is there needs to be more unity in people and stop worrying about your labels or your conditions. We really, as people globally, need to connect in a more mature way. Um, and I definitely think I have the mindset with my challenging ways to help get us to see things as they are and not as we want them to be, you know. And once we can accept life as it is now we know what we work on, you know, because otherwise most of things are on autopilot. I think that's a big deal, is how much of our life is on autopilot. Are we conscious of our decisions, like how you treat an adversary and so on and so forth. So thank you, Jenny. Anyone else care to add anything? I know some of you are brand new to Rise and Grind, and I do have some of those shows readily available, recorded live here on Breakout. But I also have so many recorded on YouTube that gives people an opportunity. So you can look me up at 72 the Architect, all one word, or Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect, and you'll find a lot of my episodes. So that's also, so as I'm converting over into my Stoic Circus, my brand new podcast, you know, there's a lot of opportunity. So anyone else, any Beth, Stephanie, any things, or Gail, have you guys heard on Rise and Grind to your knowledge that you enjoy, or have given you perspective out of curiosity? So open to you guys.
Sorry, Jay, I can't remember this app very well. I was sitting here poking at my little microphone. Yeah, I like the fact that you're just real. You're real and you talk about real things. I love it. I think you're going to do amazing.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. Any comments from anyone else in the audience before I continue on with the show? Okay. I'll go ahead, Gail.
Well, I just think the show is a good start in the morning. You bring relevant concerns and topics and things like that. I think that's on a lot of people's minds, or things they want to discuss or listen. So it's been good so far.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that, Gail. Anything from you, Stephanie, Ralph, or even Matthew's brand new to the environment. He's been you know, when we talk in our rooms on Clubhouse in the lounge, Matthew's brand new to the environment. So I can't really ask too much of him, but you know, and just like there's just things that I feel that I try to keep the same presence whether I'm on the air or off the air. I can be a clown, I can be funny, I can be very impulsive, but at the same time, I round it off, course correct, do whatever I got to do, and try to be more open. But now I'm really focused on like taking the next level of professionalism in podcasting. So Stephanie, you've been actually in quite a few of my shows. Any response from you?
I'm driving. I don't know if there's good reception. The conversation and the topics you bring up and what everybody pulls to the table is just, it feels like it's more of a community conversation going on that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that is a big factor. I could record independently like so many other podcasters, and I do, and just go straight to downloads. But I always feel that if you're going to talk and you're going to tell a story or you're going to make a point, get people's perspective, engage with people, bring it to their forefront, give them an invitation or an opportunity to, what do they think? Maybe what I'm thinking could be wrong, or maybe a little off, or it could be exactly on the money. And I know there are times when I know I'm on the money and people love it, and I appreciate it. So, which brings me, it is June 30th. It's the last day of June. And I would have to say that when I read the Daily Stoic this morning by Ryan Holiday, he quoted Marcus Aurelius by saying this: while it's true that someone can impede on our actions, they can't impede on our intentions and our attitudes, which have the power of being conditional and adaptable. For the mind adapts and converts any obstacle to its action into means of achieving it. That which impede to action turn to advanced action. That obstacle on the path becomes the way. Ooh, that's a big one. And so the question of the day that I really, you can answer openly or you can answer privately in a journal. And that's what I loved about this book is that I would write the questions, or I'd get questions according to a reading. And so the question of the day is, how can I use obstacles as an opportunity? And that's an answer, that's a question to anyone. Do you take your current obstacles, no matter what they are, and do you make them benefits? That's for anyone to answer if you want to right now. Um, I feel that the younger generations don't know how right now. They're just like, just give me the answer and let me swipe right and left. And then they kind of crumble and panic. But we as the elders, how do we pass on the learning curve, what schools don't teach you, and how to appreciate, our own personal obstacles? Because, like, to me, like the last couple days, live on here on Breakout, I have had some troll issues. I haven't escaped them. I thought I left them behind when I was on Stereo and Spoon, when I was experimenting with those applications. And, they weren't far. But what it showed me as a real example was, even there are people who do things that are uncontrollable. They will try to sabotage. And once you get off your mark, you know, it's like, where are you at? What are you left with? But what did you learn? In the last couple days, I remember, like, stay on task. I don't care who's in my way or who's aside or who's trying to pull my shirt. No matter what, stay the course, stay focused. And once you stay focused and seeing your way through, like Marcus, he's like, hey, whatever the problem is in your way is the necessary way that you need to go into. And it's very hard to explain to people, like, why do I want to go into difficulty if I can avoid it and not have to deal with it? But there are a lot of things consciously in our path, maybe things that you put on the shelf, maybe things that you just want to put in the back of your mind. And sometimes a lot of us resort to actions like, hey, let me just smoke out, psh, let it blow away. You know what I mean? Or I just can't deal with that emotionally. And then it just escalates. It's like a bad zit, that hasn't reached that surface point where it can pop, but you keep pushing it and pushing it, and eventually it does pop, and it hurts like hell. And then you have something swollen up on your face. I hate to use that graphic description, but that's kind of like life, sometimes. You got to be able to decide for yourself that when you deal with obstacles, how do you approach them? How do you deal with them? There's been many books about how to attack your problems. And the best one I ever read was The Obstacle is the Way. What is, the obstacle is the way. What do you hope to accomplish? And there's a lot of people that want to do better, hope to do better. They leave it for God to figure out. But you know what I always had to say about that? God always gives you the way to work it out. And you got to begin to trust yourself. You got to be able to say, you know what? I don't understand. I don't know, but I can find out. In my generation, I guess you could call it Generation X and maybe in the generation after slightly, we had things like your parents put you outside to go play. Like go play outside, come back before it's dark. Or when you see the lights come on and it starts going down, you got to come in. Go play, go do your things, go figure out, be in the neighborhood. Well, people don't do that no more. Here's an interesting observation about obstacles. Last night, me and my fiance, we were walking and we do a walk every night, either after dinner or sometimes after my daughter's dance practice. And something that popped in my head, and my girl was talking to me, and I just blanked out what she was saying. But then all of a sudden, she caught my attention and says, "You know what? I really like walking with you because it gives me a better perspective on my neighborhood." And I said, "Would you care to tell more?" And she goes, "There's so many beautiful houses. You know what I noticed, babe? People don't walk around and see each other anymore. They stay in their houses. Their yards look like shit. But in my neighborhood, there's beautiful gardens. It inspires me to see and do things. It inspires me to not be depressed." And I'm like, "Okay, go on. You're depressed." Like I'm trying not to probe too much, but she was kind of like opening up to me in a way where it was really personal, even problems with me. And she goes, "You know what? You're not really the problem. But what I see is what I'm not taking action in. And when I see these yards and some are beautiful, cottage style, Tudor, craftsman, construction methods that are not made in most homes nowadays. They're not personal. And when you look at yards and people's care about gardens, you see the craftsmanship of beauty and representation to be a community. And a lot of times that community gives you resources, gives you answers, gives you connection points. So when you deal with your obstacles, like how many times do we get on our phones, get on an app like this or even Clubhouse? How many times we get on an app and we're talking and then we just run in those dead end moments, and your mind is looking for something to be fulfilled or active in. What after dinner, instead of just like flipping on your phone and swiping up and right and trying to find something interesting, what about take a walk, an evening walk? Get to know your neighbors. And the interesting thing is, as we were on our walk last night, we met three really amazing people. We met three amazing people. I met this guy, Alejandro, had an amazing garden. Hedges were just beautiful, roses. He had all kinds of birds of prey. And he was such a nicest guy. And we've seen this guy every single night since we've been walking. And I stopped. My girl's like, "What do you stop for?" I said, "Hey, excuse me." And I'm like, "Do you mind if hey, I walk by your house every night and we see you chilling and playing his 1960s music. And sometimes he's smoking a J or, whatever. And he's just chilling. He has his door wide open, just being a good guy. Right. And his wife is right, comes in and brings him lemonade and stuff. And I said, "Hey, I want to introduce myself. My name's Jason." And he started speaking. I was like, automatically, I could tell he had a Spanish accent. And what was so cool, I was like, "Oh, he had a hard time speaking English." And I said, "Oh, okay. ¿Tú sabes español?" "Sí." And I was like, "Oh, me llamo Jason. And mi esposo Adriana." And he's just like, and he smiled. And I told him his garden was beautiful. And I just wanted to introduce myself because we walked by and he's like, and I'm telling him, and his wife comes out and offers me and my girl and my daughter a lemonade. And we're like, "No, we got to continue walking." But I just wanted to introduce myself to get to know, even though we're like half a mile away from our house in the neighborhoods, walking, we got to know him. And he was like thanking us. He was thanking us in Spanish. And he was telling us, like, it's so nice to see good people. good people make my neighborhood. It makes me feel safe. Imagine the obstacles you face. So much can't be figured out by you trying to overthink, but maybe walking around, maybe seeing your community, see your city. Now, I'm going to put somebody a little bit on the spot who actually deals with real estate. And Beth, I have a direct question for you. How important when it comes to selling a home is there a connection to the actual neighborhood when it comes to having a good value in your house? Would you care to answer that real quick? How important is it? If you can answer.
Oh, no, it's really important. To some people it isn't. Some people just want a house and they want to stay inside and they don't want to see any of their neighbors. Just leave me be. I don't care. This is a great place. Um, but it is extremely important to find out before I go to a neighborhood. I will call an agent that I know that possibly lives in that neighborhood. Hey, what goes on in there around it? Yeah, it's very important, Jay.
And in your neighborhood, for your experience, do you talk to your neighbors?
Absolutely. Yep, we take each other's trash out when we're, going out of town, pick up each other's mail. We'll have barbecues together. Yeah.
And that's amazing because you know what? When a community helps each other, a neighborhood helps each other, they live with each other. And sometimes it can be toxic. No, don't get me wrong. It can be difficult, but there's other benefits. Like when you go on a vacation, someone can water your plants maybe, or someone could keep an eye out like, hey, I'm leaving home. I mean, it's a limited scope, but it's a positive one. Imagine walking your neighborhood, getting to know your neighbors, being inspired, grow your own garden, or even get that exercise. How many people say, I don't have time for exercise? They know they should do it, but by walking a mile or two every night, guess what? After your meal, it makes things so the digestion just better. Your mind is clear, you get outside fresh air. But I feel that nowadays we're in such like prisons, self-contained prisons. Our homes have the amazing TVs, backyards, barbecue pits, toys. But the connection to the community is so very important for us all to develop in. Because even if you don't have a relationship with your neighbor, which is fine, you have a relationship with your community and seeing maybe if I told my city councilman to cut down a certain tree, or what if there's an eyesore of a house that's ruining my property value and I don't, what can I do? There's a YouTube show that I love watching this guy, and he actually has helped me learn how to take care of my own yard a little better by certain tools, just by watching. I don't know why I get so fascinated. This guy who runs his YouTube station called SB Mowing. This guy goes and volunteers abandoned homes or homes where you have senior citizens who cannot or do not have the ability to mow the lawn, trim hedges, or anything. He does it completely free. And at times he helps out people who are poor, barely afforded their mortgage, didn't have enough money for food. I watched him the other night. He gave like $400 to this Marine Corps veteran, which touched my heart. And $400 gave that man enough money, not just to pay his light bill, but give him groceries for the next 2 weeks. And that is a sense of good community. And that helps us face our obstacles, because sometimes our obstacles are just shrouded with just too much crap over them. So with a brief break, and people talk about they want to have good home, good rooted family values. Family values come from community. And I don't care what color your skin is, what language you speak, because speaking to Alejandro, he was so happy, and his wife offered us something to drink, and we're out to exercise. And my girl says to me, so why'd you do that? And I said, the exact reason why you asked me, or you told me about walking your neighborhood. The more people you get familiar who see you, even walk by, you see them every night walking by. What's the wrong with that? Acknowledging people. Hey, I love your yard. Makes them feel good. That could make a difference in somebody's day. We'll have a brief break in the show. Julie Locum, welcome to the stage, as well as Caroline, Ralph. Thank you so much for coming in. My question to any of you guys, how important is your community and your neighborhood to you? Is it really important, or you just don't think about it? And it's okay, however you want to answer.
I'll go on this one, Jay. It's very important. And it's not that you see people every day, right? In your neighborhood, but they do follow you on social media. And the senior center right here, someone saw that I was coming into town. And even though I can buy the food for my mom, they're giving her food, which is absolutely amazing, just because they saw a post that I put on Facebook that I was coming home.
Imagine that, the connections, even the lost connections. Recently I came across people I went to high school with, and it's been 30 years. And I'm like, I went to the reunion, and I saw only like 30 people at my reunion, but there were some people that weren't there. It's just the people I saw yesterday, just out of coincidence. And they go, oh my God, Jason, it's you. And like, I always wondered what happened to you. I was expecting to see you in politics or something like that. And I said, no, I'm not a politician right now, but I do work in law, and I work in administrative and agriculture. So I'm still dealing with the roots that we grew up with. And it was just kind of like a cool conversation. This is at a gas station. They took my number, and I said, hey, here's my podcast, and check it out. You never know. And I just so happened to find out that friend is responsible or vice president of a trucking company. I've been trying to get in contact for 2 months just to get a meeting. And he says, hey, I got you, man. Here's my personal number. Contact me. Because of that connection and being out in the community and willing to be open and talk, and not be so much protective, like, oh, who are you looking at? Like an attitude thing, and be open. Opportunities just kind of sometimes plop right in your lap unexpectedly. So I'm going to go to a few that have not answered. Caroline, welcome into the show. How important is community? And do you get out into the community or neighborhood? Do you walk around? Do you get to talk to people? I'm just curious where you're from and how you handle it. And what do you think?
Good morning, Jason, and everybody in the room. I don't know if you noticed all of the thumbs up that were flashing when you talked about the SB mowing. That was me if you did see it.
Oh, I saw, but I can't tell who's throwing them up. So
Right. Well, it ties into everything you're saying for me because we don't know our neighbors. We just moved here a year and a half ago. And, I'm a homebody. I stay inside and I don't like the heat. But 2 weeks ago, I decided to take a week off from social media, meaning Clubhouse, not this one though.
okay.
And during that time, I was watching YouTube videos, and you know how you can search for something, and the next thing you're down a rabbit hole and you're watching a giraffe be born. You know what I'm talking about? Well, lawn care came up. I got interested in it. I've seen SB mowing. I love Ryan Knorr, the lawn care nut. And so I had my husband order me a dethatcher, and we're going to go get a riding lawnmower. I'm going to start taking care of the lawn myself because I'm fascinated with it. Because of that, I have now met both of my neighbors on either side of me. And I'm very fortunate. I mean, I'm very glad that I did because I knew there was an elderly couple on one side of us, but I didn't know his wife had passed. And he's going on 90. And I have an affinity for the elderly anyway. And so now I check on him. I let him know if I'm going out of town to the grocery to get things for him. So yeah, that is very important to me. And I'm just so glad that I did get out. And like you said, even walking, you can meet other neighbors. So yeah, very important.
Yeah, it is. And because you have that connection now, you may have, like, like maybe part of your life's work, you know, in nursing, and also a sense of, you know, being good people, making and making family. Like sometimes there's people in our neighborhoods that are not blood related, but you'd do anything for them. Like I remember my neighbor across the street, you know, he bruised his hip really bad, and he was like, and his sons his sons live with him, and his wife works 2 jobs, and he got hurt on the job, and he was just like having such a hard time. He called me up and he says, "Hey, Jason, I need to ask a big favor." And he had a bunch of groceries in the back of his car. You know, he went to like, I think it was like Safeway or something like that. And he goes, "Hey, could you help me out? Would that be okay?" And I said, "Absolutely. What do you need?" And so I carried all his groceries, put them on his counter, you know, and he's like, and he didn't want to walk because he's actually advised not to be walking around and doing too much. But the beautiful thing is like, because I did that later on, he brought me over some of his barbecue chicken. And I'm like, oh, and what was the beautiful thing was about that was I was like thinking, man, I want some barbecue chicken. Man, I have to go to the store, go do whatever, get the stuff. Probably take me an hour and a half to get it all done. This guy gave me what I wanted. I didn't ask for it, but I thought about it. And I guess people could say that's manifestation at its best. You do good for others, you do good for your neighbors, you watch out for them, and people do things unexpectedly without ever asking. And I think that's amazing because we don't know what each of us is facing inside. I knew he had gotten hurt, but I didn't know the extent of his injuries. And he was just telling me, he's like, "Yeah, you know, Anthony and Michael, they're at work, and I went to go pick these up. My wife's not due home till 6. I know she's gonna be tired." And he tried to be the man, just trying to be, you know, toughen it up and think he could do it. But he's like, even going to the store was a lot for him. And by me doing that, and he had a good sum of groceries, like a lot of there's a lot of heavy stuff. And me being Mexican, we try to just take it all at once. Like, here, I'm going to put under this hand, and then I'm going to put under this finger. And then that's how we roll. Get it all in one if we can. And he's like, oh, watching me. He's like, yeah, you're doing this. But yeah, he showed up with barbecue chicken, and, you know, and I was just like, damn, that was good. And I asked him what was in his sauce because I like the tanginess of his sauce, and it was just a good experience. So moving on, you know, Julie Locum, welcome into the room. What's your connection with your own neighborhood? Do you know your neighbors, or do you have connection with your neighborhood? Do you even walk it in Chicago? I'm just curious.
Hey there. I do every day. I'm actually outside watering the flowers. Um, it's an interesting neighborhood that I live in. I'm out either running in the morning or walking. It sure helps if you have a dog. I'm just going to say I've met so many people since I've gotten dogs. It's like I was not in the folds of the inner circle until I got dogs. Now everybody just stops and talks to me. So it's really fun. Now we have an interesting mix here because we had an elderly neighbor who lived behind me. Maybe if anyone has any legal advice, but I don't think there's anything we can do. He died, and then squatters moved into his house, if you can believe that. So we have some really random squatters living behind us, but other than that, pretty amazing people.
Interesting. I can't give legal advice in another state, but what I will say, go to your local housing authority and also submit a report with them and the police station.
There is nothing you can do, Jason.
Really?
Like, seriously, there's nothing you can do. Like, the police, nobody can do anything. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I've heard that you can't do anything when that happens. Even the owner of the house can't go and throw them out, which is odd to me.
Yeah, every state is different. Here in California, they have anti-squatter laws, and they what it if they're getting mail, you have to go through the procedure of eviction, and it takes 30 to 90 days to get them out, and it costs money. And then once that's done, homelessness is on the rise, and it's really hard from state to state. I've heard horror stories where a couple came back from El Salvador and been gone 6 months, and someone moved into their house, and a false realtor was selling the house. And I think I was watching it on Dr. Phil, and it took them a year to get them out. A year. And yeah, that's kind of tough. But
They know their rights. They know their rights. And it's crazy. I mean, it's really insane. The fact that they can move in their whole family and they don't pay anything.
Well, there's also an
And this
interesting
isn't
thing
like
about
a
that. There's an opportunity with that, because now that you know your neighbors, guess what also happens when you know your neighbors and you get to talking and you follow your local politician, your constituents, and all. They want to know what you think. It's like, look, you got to clean up some of these squatters, people that are hurting our neighborhoods. Having connection with your councilman, your city councilman, your county supervisors, your congressmen. When communities and neighborhoods really work together, they can really get things moved. Like, for example, there is a group that I support. They're called Freedom Angels.
It's brought all the other neighbors. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll just say this quickly.
Sure.
It's brought all the other neighbors together, because we're all like, it's a little scary, these people that live behind me.
Yeah. And what you can do is, like, you just keep letting them know you're not welcome. More people, more neighbors saying you're not welcome. And eventually, things will happen. I don't know what, but anyways. But getting back to my quick story, this group called Freedom Angels, it's a support children's group, and they just moved the initiative in California where they were trying to make the HPV one shot mandatory. They removed it, and it's optional. And for people who are questioning vaccines and things like that, they should be able. It's because neighbors and people and community got together. They said, we don't want this, so that shows you that neighbors and people in community can change things, get people thinking in groups, can get things changed in policy, where, say, like, if enough of your neighbors and people in your city, and they moved for an ordinance about anti-squatting, how can we take the procedure with the state and the county and the city and move it to where, no, they're not going to do this. It takes time, but unless you're willing to commit, nothing changes. Otherwise, people just keep complaining. So I hope that your situation gets resolved. But getting back to it, here's another question for you, Julie. By you walking your neighborhood, does it de-stress you, walking your dog?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. I mean, I wake up 5 a.m. every morning, exercise. I do all the things. And, this will sound crazy probably, and I shouldn't say it. I like walking at night too. When you can look in everybody's windows. I know it sounds crazy, because I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's like charming to see people vibrant.
I agree with you.
And active.
I agree with you.
I don't go. I'm not a peeping Tom. Let's be clear.
Yeah,
but just people with their lights on. Okay, maybe.
I like that too, Julie. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. And I love it when my husband's home, because I don't have to be the driver. And when we get to our subdivision, I'm like, now slow down. Because you'd be amazed at how many people leave their shears open, and you can see. And so, yeah, I do the same thing.
We're crazy, Caroline. Let's just no, it is fun. It's there's something heartwarming about it, and it's interesting just to see a glimpse into how other people live, because you can become so isolated.
Should we call you the Peeper then, for a nickname then?
The Peeper, sure. I'll take it.
Nah, I'd rather stick with Jules. Jewel is a jewel, there you go. But no, but that's interesting that you raised that point, because last night when we were walking the neighborhood, we saw a couple craftsmen homes, and the people had their doors wide open with the screen. You could see inside. And I got a view of this one house that had beautiful, looked like redwood floors. You do not find this very often. And you see how their living room's set up a little bit, and you get a glimpse, and you're like, wow, that looks really cool. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, if the door's open, you're just glancing, walking by. Unless they're walking out naked in something, that's their problem. But I trust me, I've done it too. But it also gives people, there are some people who have no taste in decorating their house, and sometimes they might get inspired.
That's so true. Oh my gosh.
Like, we have one neighbor that everything is all in white, and I'm like, dude, do you want to be in a sanitarium or what? You know, and
Or how about the hoarders? Like, you can tell at Christmas time when
yes,
people put out like so many ornaments, it's insane. Just you can tell the hoarders for sure.
that could be a problem too, because those hoarders, whoo, just down the street right now, a gentleman died about 2 months ago, and his son's here with his mom, and they're cleaning out his house. They got big dumpsters of shit, and she was telling us that he never threw away anything. And it's like, and if you ever watch that show Hoarders, some of those homes, people can just die and either burn to death, suffocate, you know, all kinds of bad conditions. I used to watch Hoarders, and then I'm like, no, I can't watch this stuff no more. I'd rather watch SB mowing, or I have another fascination with working on car shows, cars, and then people taking this stuff to car shows. I have that's something that I like to do privately. I mean, I love watching guys and ladies, female mechanics out there who are working on cars. Matter of fact, I watched this lady where she was rebuilding a 68 Camaro, an SS, and she found it in a junkyard, just found the body, and she showed from before to now. And I'm like, and she don't look like she's no roughneck. She don't look like no grease monkey, but sh- she works in an office. But on the weekends, man, this car looked, it looked amazing. So, but getting back to the neighborhoods and getting to your obstacles, when you walk around, and especially at night, if you can walk in your neighborhood at night without being harassed, having any problems, think about how freeing that is. Then you know that your home is really worth something. Because how many people are trying to find a house to live in where they're gonna be safe? After most, maybe Beth can respond to this. Do you think that most people really evaluate their neighborhood after they purchase their home? I mean, months afterwards, like walking in their neighbors. I mean, do you ever hear from some of your clients, hey, I found a great home because I've been walking around, or maybe this wasn't such a good idea? Beth, could you answer that out of curiosity? If you can, she might have difficulty in signal though. All right. She's got difficulty in signal. But anyhow, bringing this show coming to a close, thank you for all of you for being out there. So starting tomorrow, my Stoic Circus will be starting. I will be getting rid of Rise and Grind, including my clubhouse. It will change to my Stoic Circus. If I can't change it, I will delete it. And when I start, I will give invites to those who've been a part of. I do want my show to be community involved. So just like I did today, asking y'all questions, I feel that makes better impacts than me trying to sell a program or a book, getting people involved. And also, Julie also is one of the co-hosts from My Big Idea. She's been working on a landing page. Amazing. Looks good. And I'm so happy that I get to partner with her and Dragon for Monday morning. So if you want a Monday morning show at 7 a.m. live here on Breakout and Clubhouse for now, we'll be producing that, and it'd be available to everyone to be a part of. There may be some people that are excluded, and not to really go into them, but it's just be on your best behavior. That's it. Just be on your best behavior, because we're here to expand minds, networks, value, work-life balance, maybe you might be an entrepreneur and you never knew it. Maybe you need just a little bit of experience. I'm not so much an entrepreneur. I wouldn't call myself. Maybe Julie and Dragon are more so. We all have different experiences in coming to the table and thought process. So I'm really proud to be a part of the big idea. So Monday, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Mountain Central. It's a great experience to be a part of. And we will have great features coming to you. We will have special guests. We will have premium rooms, so special attendance, and eventually probably we'll have the subscription supporter fan base, so where you get exclusive content and availability. And we might have some I can't say because we're still working on it. Some, let's just say, high ticket speakers where you be a part of the big idea that you can go and listen to. You can see that, have a real conversation, maybe find solutions for some of the obstacles you're dealing with. So any closing thoughts from not just my co-host today, but also people in the speaker audience? Anyone else would like to add anything before I close out today?
Another great room, great topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thanks, Jay. It was awesome. Squatters, peepers, hoarders. Oh my! No, I loved it. It was great. Thank you.
Lions and tigers. Oh my! Yeah, I like that. Jenny, anything closing for you?
Just a great room like always, and really looking forward to this new pathway to your new show. So definitely I'm looking forward to that.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. We're now last episode of Rise and Grind. We'll see you on My Stoic Circus. You all have a great, amazing day and have a great 4th of July weekend. Be safe out there, eat well, treat people well, and don't get any arguments, because I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to try. Not today, Satan. That's what I'm going to say every time I'm triggered. Not today, Satan. So that's also going to be a future topic in my show. All right, y'all, take care. We'll see you next time on My Stoic Circus, ending on Rise and Grind.